Alright, I'm going to do an update. I've made some progress. Done some statistics for the M-Bone category that package source is. It is older. They're older packages. I hope to actually talk about the VirtualBox guest editions before it gets too late. I tried that. I tried building from source, and for some reason, it will build in the hybrid, but it won't build in GC4. So I was able to download whoever had put this stuff together, and I was able to figure out where to put the stuff. And maybe I'll do that first. I've done stats before. Basically, in the M-Bone, which is not really representative of the entire population, because now, my last of my video I was just at 10%, and now I've probably built my actual total packages that I've built, either installed or but no package, or sometimes it's installed, has a package, installed doesn't have a package. These are the kind of stats I have. Basically, the ones that are black, those are all the ones I have not done a pass-through yet. The ones I've done a pass-through yet so far, I'm getting anywhere from, the worst is M-Bone at 16%. The best, without counting the fonts, because that's not going to be representative, is close to 60% of being able to make a package out of it or get it installed. Having my makefile the way it is right now, for the most part, I'm able to do a lot of stuff. I probably should get rid of this LD flags thing on my make.conf, or maybe not. I'm trying to see what will happen when I put it in there. That's exploratory. But to go over this really quickly, in case in case this has grown or I haven't really made myself clear as to what I have in here. No checksum equals yes. Most everybody has that. It just means that if I want to revert to a different version of a package and download one version earlier, or if they don't have a makefile, like Python, they do have makefiles for Python 26 and 27, but if I want to try a different version of Python 27, say 27.4 versus 27.6, and it downloads, package source won't interrupt my compilation saying that it the checksum doesn't match. Of course, we have a different version of the program. There's a change. There's something different, and the checksum won't work. Package final destination I went over earlier. Basically, that's where I put my packages. That is not a standard variable. I'll tell you that right now. You have to edit in the make directory, the package format, subdirectory, package subdirectory, package.mk. There are 3 lines that have .package in it. You need to change the contents all the way to the left of that and put package final destination as a variable in there. And then you also, if you're going to do that, you have to make sure that you have a permanent variable inside your mk.conf where it just won't know where to put the package. And I've decided to put mine in boot home package source packages. Diger likes to put his in boot home, maybe even boot packages. I'm not sure if it's boot home packages or just boot packages. Whatever you fancy. One thing I found out that was very helpful was the fetch timeout. I'd come back one night and I saw that there was an FTP job that had been going for 14 hours. And that really puts a cramp in my style because I want to build things overnight while I'm gone and not find out that I've only built 2 packages. I got that in there to, so it'll time out after 2 minutes if nothing downloads. Local patches, that's where Diger's Git repository I downloaded Diger's Git repository and placed it there. If there are any patches inside the directory structure there, they'll apply in addition to the patches that are in package source already. I will tell you this, patches are a bitch. If I really want to look stupid on camera, I'll try to do a patch, because it's not easy. this LD flag, this specs, I've already talked about that before, but basically I have a file called specs that in it says to use my own headers. I'll talk a little bit more about headers when I go over the M-bone. Why? Because why it's going to be important, I mean, just in my case, is I'm not technically doing a technically correct, I'm going to talk about technical correctness a little bit. In the gray area of technical correctness. And the most technical sense, you can say, well, if you're going to port the app over to Haiku, you have to make the application work in Haiku's environment without changing it. Which kind of justifies, that the system directory is non-writable. Okay. Obviously, by saying I've copied over a header to another location to get one package to compile, I'm admitting that I didn't change the source code. But I'm also going to say that when I look at this, and I see that there were arguably two headers that were older programs. I mean, there's one program out of 12. The 3 out of 12 have release dates of 2005, 2001, and 1998. So they're older. POSIX, or whatever the standard, if POSIX says where to put stuff, and it changed its standard and said that signal now has to go in the root and not in sys, and FCNTL has to go into the root and not into sys, well, what can I say? Now, I have seen headers in Linux that just basically, it might be signal.h in sys, but all it is just a header that points to another header that's where POSIX says for it to go. That's probably what we should do. And if doing that much makes us non-POSIX compliant, then I would just throw POSIX out the window because it isn't worth much. Now, this is older programs, but there may be some still issues. There's a lot of header issues that come up. The program can't find the header. Now, there's a few cases where I don't see that header exists in Haiku. Now, maybe because it's the header that is for some dependency of the program that isn't clear by the compilation. I don't know. But anyway, so in one case where I moved the header, copied it, using my own include. See, what the specs thing does is it's a text file that has one line that says, if you're looking for headers, look over in boot, home, package, include. Don't look in whatever the standard is. I can turn that off and on whenever I want. But I've done it the same. I've copied Haiku's headers into include, and I've copied the contents of the POSIX directory into include. So it should path the same. And I did it in both cases. It doesn't find it. So I'm just saying, if it's technically incorrect to make another signal.h header in the sys subdirectory that points to the signal.h that's in the main directory, that's all it's got. It doesn't have other definitions and things in it. If that's bad or unkosher, then that's crazy. That's what you should do, because it's a lot easier for me. This is 12 out of close to 12,000 packages I have by my count here. It was 11,836, right? I've added some more. There's another category, file systems. It was like 11,700 something before. If you extrapolate 2 out of 12? I mean, it's what percentage is that? 17%. So let's see, 17% times what we got here. Okay, 2,000. right? Somewhere between, I don't know, say 1,000 and 2,000, just to be generous. That's between, roughly 1,000 patches, that we would have to make because someone doesn't want to have a stopgap header in there because it's not POSIX compliant. I don't know if that's the case, but that's the idea. But if the idea is rejected, which I almost anticipate that it would be, people are going to be doing a lot of work when it takes a minute for someone to make a simple header that all it says is one line, include ... signal.h. All right, go up to the previous directory and get the signal include. So that way, when people try to compile these old programs before the POSIX standards change, I'm assuming these are POSIX headers. They were in the POSIX directory. That they won't have their compilation fail because of that. 2,000, 1 to 2,000 of them I think are going to do that just representatively. And overall, this was a much tougher category because a lot of these are older. The Beacon project doesn't even exist anymore as far as I know. Some of these have, the last time source code was released in 1998. Specifically, that's for a program called RAT. And when we're looking at numbers that are this large to get a full-fledged system with a wide variety of applications that are available, and if people feel like they can do anything they want with Haiku, well, that's to me that's what freedom's called. And to get there, we're going to want things to compile, not have people porting things and maintaining silly patches. And to me, it would be a silly patch, just to change the location of a header, in my opinion. And then someone's got to make it, submit it. Someone's got to look it over, approve of it, house it. And then it's got to be deployed. It's got to apply right. Every time we make a file, and every time there's that extra step, something can go wrong. And meanwhile, all we got to do is make one text file with it's very small, and just stick it in the sys directory and point it to the other one. That's my opinion of what should be done. Now, in general, we get some other kinds of errors that come up. So there's sometimes it just can't find the header. In the archivers, there were some headers that just didn't exist. Again, it could be because those are XCB headers or something, and I didn't have them yet because I hadn't gotten that far. We're also getting a lot of unknown argument types. And one thing that I found very interesting. Now, there was one, what program was that? Couldn't find its own header. There's something called RTP tools, and it errored out. It says can't find this header. I looked at the source code, and it had in brackets I think maybe this is part of what's going on. I think this is part of what's going on with Python. Because I remember I had to copy the Python header into the modules directory from the include directory. It was just right there in the same source tree. And I'm getting the idea that for some reason, because it was set up, it had brackets around it, as if it was, I had to put quotes around it. Get rid of the brackets, because the brackets say go look in the for Haiku stdio.h and these greater than less than is a better word than brackets means look in boot home develop headers, boot home develop headers POSIX, boot home develop headers BSD, and a couple others. Now, apparently there's an order to this, so it'll check POSIX first, then it'll check BSD. for the file, as far as I know. At least what I've been told. I have no reason to not think it's true. But in this case, it was listed like this. RP, it had the brackets around it. And for some reason, I'm getting the idea it's happened enough where I'm thinking that also is supposed to mean look relative to the directory that I'm in right now. And I don't think that's pathed. I think it isn't pathed in Haiku. It's not. So if you have I'm guessing, and this is my theory, because I've had theories that were just proven flat wrong before, but I'm thinking for some reason the way it's configured, GCC's configured, it's not actually able to use that kind of relative reference inside the source repository, but I think it's supposed to work, or maybe it used to work. This is an old enough program where it may be, again, they're changing the POSIX standards, where now if you got brackets, you're not looking in the local directory, you're just looking in the include directory, or the headers directory for Haiku. I don't know if that's the case, but if that is, that's one thing that would need to be fixed. And it could be a lot of these undefined references are coming up because of that. Sometimes maybe the compiler just doesn't say anything about the header it doesn't find. Don't know. I'm getting a lot of these errors with int8_t. And there's something else I want to talk about. It seems, I was reading over some of the discussion just thinking about the discussion that took place for X11 and the sunlen variable, which has a 4-hour video. But if there was as far as I know, there was some kind of programming choice. The Mike guy, he found it strange that this error was coming up. This sun len error was coming up because his formula was configure the thing and make it. With use libtool to do it, but and all of a sudden he's getting the sunlen error. I guess I don't even know if I can get BOS to work in the guest editions. I hope to talk about the guest editions too, because I want to show how to actually get it to work. Basically, if you have a package that's zipped up, you can use the contents. It doesn't matter if the contents are in a different place. You just have to know where to put it, alternative to where it was originally packaged. But getting back to this, it was, so he thought that was kind of odd. What's this sunlen error? And if that was brought up, and if the people that made Haiku had sat around and made a decision, I read some of the emails, and basically the answer was, well, that sunlen thing is not part of the POSIX definition, blah, blah, blah. But it'll work if you put this other variable in there. Now, I don't know how hard it would be to change the header or whatever to make that sunlen thing okay for Haiku. It seemed to have been okay for BOS. But if we just step back for a little bit, yeah, the POSIX standards may say one thing, but we're here to use, the end users don't care about the POSIX standards. They just want to use their programs. The developers care somewhat, but not enough. So, oh yeah, I'm going to do an extra 2-3 hours work, or I'm going to bring all the development in Haiku World to an almost flat stopping point from March 2010 until 2014, because we're willing to go through that because Sunland is not POSIX compliant. Screw it. Add it in there. It's not that Linux just can't manage to be POSIX compliant. It's not a sell point to say, oh, Linux doesn't even manage the POSIX compliant, but we have. I don't see this as a sales point. The sales point is stuff works. In general, you can get it to at least compile. I mean, Linux obviously has other problems. I know that. I'm well aware of that. I've done plenty of videos on the problems I think Linux has. But the problem I think Haiku has is that it's, if I'm gleaning this right, and I, again, could be wrong, and I've been wrong before, so this is my guess. If it is, it's time to rethink. And if you can't compute that, it's going to be the same. It's not going to change. I mean, take a sample size, extrapolate it, and you can find out how tough it's going to be. And I'm smiling ear to ear because I got almost, a little over 10% here, but it's been formidable the whole way. Now I got Mesa libraries that aren't going to extract right because we don't have hard links. And all these little things add up because what Unix is a house of cards. So even if 1 in 30 packages has a problem with the hard links, that could hold up the whole chain that depends on that one thing. Unix really, to me, is finding out how to get the balancing act just right and don't move it. Unfortunately, we don't have the commercial developers have not arrived. We're not getting a lot of packages. They're not open source space. So so it's time to start being loosening up a bit and allowing for, because if it's just a nightmare, less people are going to try. There's been a couple people who have been successful, but I just have to wonder why was there may be a reason why the 2 distributions that had been made had stopped. Maybe it's because of the way the system changed. I don't know, but it's definitely not a healthy sign when the latest X11 app downloads that I've found, at least I haven't looked exhaustively, but the latest ones I've seen over there at Haikuware is from 2010. Oh, we got a Sunland problem, So should people really have to work this hard to get the most out of because of a strict POSIX compliance? It's a label. It's a label that can change. Changes all the time. There'll be another set of standards that'll come out some other time. Does that make what we've done now, even if we're perfectly compliant with POSIX at this point, does that make us wrong? But we just didn't know it because if they make corrections, then do we really think that they're never ever going to change those POSIX rules ever again? So, putting that all together, there are just some things that really ought to be done to allow for a healthy community, ecosystem, development system. I don't know much about coding. There is just a hell of a lot of these unknown type errors that keep coming up. over here, but not elsewhere. And I just really have to wonder: is it, well, that's not POSIX, so we're not going to do that. It seems, where are we here to make a desktop friendly user operating system, or are we here to design really cool ideas but restrict ourselves so much in the POSIX straitjacket that we can't actually get anything done? Right now, what the community has been able to muster is what's in Haiku Depot officially. Anyway, I've already gone on this whole rant. I guess let me try to do... Now, the VirtualBox guest editions don't work perfectly. I mean, there's the one that's built, unfortunately... I do appreciate the fact that it's there and that I do have that option. Don't get me wrong. But the one that's there is that, yeah, I get the mouse integration. It works. But then I can't move any of the icons around on my desktop. So it doesn't really work perfectly. At least, the one that's pre-built, right? It sounded like it was a really tough build for this guy to do. They have taken the time, and they've got it working, but only for the hybrid, as far as I could tell. It did work, it did install on my laptop when there was a hybrid. But here on the GC4, it's not, and that shouldn't be that way. And I looked at it, what's so strange about it is we end up downloading the entire... Not that we download the entire repo for... It's not just that. Is part of the whole source repository is this little Git directory with like 20,000 little tags of I don't know what those things are. They certainly don't help it compile, I don't think. So maybe they're hashtags for each of the parts. I don't know. But anyway, so this is where you put the stuff. Here's where is it? There's one discussion. There's hardly any discussion at all out there. But when the people do discuss things, they usually do a pretty good job of getting you what you need to know in general. Just in case it isn't clear, if you happen to have gone over to the discussion, I downloaded this VirtualBox Guest Editions package that was made, 3 years ago. Now, rule of thumb I usually use when I do guest editions or extension packs with VirtualBox, so I usually use the same version that I have installed on the outside. Wow. 3 years ago. It works to some extent. The mouse does show, but I'm not getting any use of USB. I don't think I'm getting any sound drivers. And I can't drag the icons. Okay, so let's just expand this. Alright, this apps actually goes in this directory here. You have to create this directory. This one called apps. Boot apps. You put these two in here. Once you're done placing everything in place, you just have to restart. In fact, I'll show the mouse integration is working again. This is what? Some constant timeout? What are we doing here? Operation is too slow. Alright, I'll just put these in here. Or did I? No, I didn't. Home config is the same thing as, okay, so home config, instead of add-ons being up here, it goes in unpackage. Just copy these to window, select all, file, see how user-friendly this is? File copy, file paste, it'll ask me if I want to, no, it just goes in there, it's fine. Or did it? Input certain, no, it has to go in somewhere else. It goes in the kernel directory? No, there, okay, it's in the right place. And then, before I forget, it's easy to screw this up. And there's a boot and a launch. This is the sort of symbolic link. So you have to put, this is the auto start. Goes in settings and launch. So these the locations are different. So this package, it has a home config boot launch, which is now, well, home config settings boot launch instead of config. Let me look and see if there's a boot in the config. There isn't any. It's in settings. In non-packaged, it's where the add-ons used to go. Packaged add-ons. I think I put it in the wrong place. Yeah, this goes in the here. Yeah. Go. Oh, great. Red alert. Kernel panic. All right. Then an app that just goes in the very base. I got that wrong too. See, it's so easy to get. It goes in the VBox Editions folder. What the hell is this? Boot apps. Okay, wait. When it gets late, I get tired. See, now I can't move anything. That it's already, I guess it's working. Yeah, there we go. Let's see, does it work? Yeah, so there we go. So I got my mouse integration, but now I can't move anything on the desktop. So I didn't have to reboot. That's fine. Am I going to keep it that way? I don't know. Now, does it have any impact on networking, any impact on sound? I don't know yet. I doubt it. I doubt I'm going to have a bunch of SDL compiles after this. I'm just about done, but what I'm going to do is, whenever my makefile, whenever the guest editions talked about the mbone stats, I guess just look at my overall stats. In case I didn't do that, because I'm a little bit tired here. So, text processing, 41%. I focused on that. News I focused on, that's 30%. I haven't really done an analysis. Maybe my analysis is this kind of thing. What actually are the errors in this category? Games, no analysis yet. 18%, not too great. Probably because they're going to need the Mesa libraries. Geography 30. So anyway, basically, when I get done with this, I'm probably going to be with most of these things somewhere in the range of... I'm probably going to have about 3,000 packages at this stopping point. I didn't mention I'm at a what I call a feature freeze. I want to figure out what I'm able to build at this stage without the Mesa libraries. And of course, that's going to block a lot of things. A lot of new apps are actually graphical user interface oriented. And then I'm going to work on getting that to build. Right now, tar, the Mesa package that downloads from their site, from what I could tell, at least the one that's being used in package, it looks like an older version, is built. It has symbolic hard links, built into it. So when it runs tars, it just uses that. Now there is an option that can be used to cause, I think it's tar. In fact, it's hard to tell what's really causing it to unzip the way it does. I may try to get the source through Haiku Porter and then just move it into package source. Which is probably the way I'll do it. But I'm stuck there. But I want to do a run through all these categories before I go on to that, so I can get a good idea of how things are going, get a more accurate count, basically. I know that I couldn't have an accurate count in the devel or the editors category because I have less packages sitting in the packages directory than I have built. There's some that I'm excited to try, like emulators, now that I have some X11, see what it builds. Although some of them don't really need X11. DOSCMU doesn't seem to need X11. And some things build on, and once I get to a point where nothing else is going to build, then I'll move on maybe to the Mesa libraries. I also haven't fully tried to see if I can grep out every mention of Sunlen in all those X11 packages that I built. But I still don't even know how to launch some of these X11 packages. I have an Xmojang that is built that I should be able to run, and I can't even find clear instructions anywhere as to how to run it. Do you double click on it? Do you do the dbus thing that I talked about earlier? What is it that you actually do to get one of these things to run? Or do I have a bad build and that's why it's not running? Or am I missing, is it because I'm missing XCB? Even though the package didn't list XCB as a dependency, maybe it really does rely on it. Maybe it won't run unless I have it. So I don't know those answers yet. I'm trying to come back with some useful information, and what I hope my useful suggestion is that, can we loosen up on the POSIX here? Maybe we can make some dummy headers so some other obscure apps will compile and people have an easier time overall. Can we look into whether there's something, if we can change the configuration in GCC so we'll actually be able to include headers that come with packages in the source tree? Or was that a bug that I found where it had the brackets around it? That's a possible question. I don't know why VirtualBox isn't building here versus in GCC2. Hopefully I came up with some information about maybe leading closer to an answer for the solution to the Sunlen issue with library X11. Hopefully I did that. And hopefully once I get past the Mesa library and stuff, I'll have a lot more packages to work with. Hopefully I won't run out of room either. Let's do a quick package info, then I'm done. hopefully I passed on some information also just to make things easier for people to use an alternative way to build things for Haiku. And also keep in mind, with these packages, I don't know if I've mentioned this in another video, but basically they're built in such a way that they'll fit into any stream. I could use these packages in my non-packaged directory, or even if, as long as wherever Haiku decides to put their bin, their library, and their other directories, as long as they're all in the same directory, the packages that I'm making, just by the way package source operates, it's nothing I invented. All you have to do is unzip them in that root directory and they'll install right away. They don't have the extra common directory, the extra apps directory. And I really do recommend that if people build stuff, they actually don't include any of those things except for just the cutoff as to where it is. Let me try to explain what I mean by that. Hopefully I don't have a million packages sitting ready to be put into directories, because here's one, here's two. Not much, actually. It's just sitting here trying to download whatever. Show the contents of this. So this only has like a man page in it, right? But see, the top directory is just bin. Top directory is just man. Right? So I don't have to. Now, see, the problem with this, let's see. The VirtualBox is a good example, though, as to how that doesn't really fit that well. I mean, it wants some stuff up in boot apps. It wants some stuff in. So as long as you're not installing something like that, I do recommend that you package your stuff just to have the very base. If I could just open this up. Here's the man directory. And there's a bin directory up here, and that's the top of it. So if I want to drop this stuff into, it's not going to work in every case. Boot home config, still got to go in config. But the instructions to the your audience would be in non-packaged. So all you got to do to use this is just put the zip file in boot home config non-packaged, unzip it, and delete the text files that have information about the package. That's all you have to do. It'll work. It'll integrate with the system. If they decide to change the name from non-packaged to homebrew, it's not going to matter. But if you package your stuff to have that non-packaged folder or that common folder, something like that, the hindsight's always 20/20, then it's not going to fit in completely right. There'll be some scrambling to do. But in the case of the VirtualBox guest edition, there's not much I could have done about that. I mean, I suppose that this apps directory really wants to be there. I'm not so sure if that's true. Not so sure if that's true. I'd have to test it. I'll do another skunk work on it. I don't know. All right, done.